And now another woman comes out and alleges that Trump committed assault and rape. I mean, I'm sorry, my friends. Good morning, Kuhner country. Look, I never make light of rape. You know me. I think it's one of the most heinous crimes, or sexual assault of any kind is one of the most heinous crimes possible. But this is really getting absolutely pathetic. I mean, you want to talk about being desperate, absolutely desperate. So, what did I say yesterday? I said, you mark my words. If this Trump is Hitler line of attack, if this smear, if this defamation, if this outrageous attempt at character assassination, if that doesn't work, I said, what's next? I said, what? He's a pedophile? What? He has untoward relations with goats? Like, where else can they go? I forgot. They can always bring out a rape accusation or a sexual assault accusation. So, this is now what the left is now trying to peddle. What is it, 12, 11 days, whatever it is now, until the election. So, no, Hitler, no, it doesn't seem to be popping in the polls. So, they got a Democrat activist, I kid you not, a hardcore Democrat activist who in fact campaigned actively for Barack Obama, who now has come out and alleged, listen now to this, that 31 years ago, by the way, nothing spells credibility more than a woman who's never said anything about Donald Trump for 31 years. Suddenly, 3 decades later, 12 days before the election, all of a sudden, he groped me. It was horrible. So, according to her, and she's a liar, I'm telling you she's a liar, she claims that in 1992, she met, Jeffrey Epstein. And that she hung out with Epstein, she became his girlfriend, but of course she never knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a sexual abuser. No. Nothing about his proclivities for underage girls, his infamous parties, nothing like that. Anyway, according to her, they started dating in 1992. She's very specific. 1992. And then in 1993, she said that she met Jeffrey Epstein. They were going to go out on a date. They were at Epstein's home, his mansion in New York City. And according to her, Jeffrey Epstein said to her, hey, I know Donald Trump. She said, really? Yeah. Let's walk over to Trump Tower and I can introduce you to the Donald. So, according to her, listen now to this. She went up and there was Donald Trump. She was with Epstein. She said, hi, this is Donald. Donald, here's his girlfriend. And apparently now, according to her, right there on the spot, allegedly with all of these witnesses, who, by the way, no one has said they saw anything like this. So in a room full of people, she says Donald Trump walked up to her, and instead of saying hello and shaking her hand or whatever, it's a family show, so I don't want to get too graphic. According to her, he just started to grab her boobs. Let me clean it up a little bit. That he just started to feel off right there on the spot. He doesn't say hi, doesn't shake her hand, doesn't say, hey, I'm Donald Trump, what's your name, or nice to meet you, or whatever. He just starts grabbing her, grabbing her boobs. There he is, digging away. Then he grabs her crotch. Then he grabs her rear end. He brings her close to him. And she says, I just stood there as he was groping me up and down in front of everybody. And then, according to her, Trump had this evil smile on his face. And he looked at Epstein, and she could see this somehow. And that Epstein was smiling as well. And the two men in this villainous smile were laughing and had this sort of connection. In other words, ha 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 ha, we can do anything we want to women. Ha 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 ha. So that she says that's what happened. That's what she claims in an interview with the British newspaper, The Guardian. I'm sure most of you have heard about this because the media now in this country, okay, no, forget Hitler. That was yesterday's news. They've now moved on to this. Now it's saturation coverage. Trump assaults another woman. Another woman comes out with an assault accusation. She claims that she didn't know what to do. She was shocked. I didn't know what was happening to me. This, by the way, apparently she was a high-end model for a couple years in New York City. And she says, no one had ever groped me before. All of the photographers I dealt with, all of the fashion shows, all of the modeling shows, which is notorious for having crude, disgusting men, grope women. No, that never happened to her. Only that one time when she went with Donald Trump. And so she's now telling everybody that this is the kind of man Donald Trump is. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. I'd like to take calls right after the opening monologue, next segment. So if you want to call in, now's the time to do it. First of all, apparently, this so-called revelation with, less than 2 weeks now to go before the election, 31 years later. By the way, she never told a living soul. She never filed a police report. She never made a complaint. She didn't tell a friend. She didn't tell a family member. Apparently now this has all been bottled up for 31 years. She didn't mention it in 2016. She didn't mention it when Trump was president. She didn't mention it in 2020. Suddenly now, shazam, 11 days before the election, he assaulted me. Okay, number one. Number two, this came out on a conference call that she was put on with Kamala's campaign team in a phone interview with multiple other media outlets. In other words, she broke this so-called story on coordinating with the Kamala campaign on the phone as they were talking to multiple friendly media outlets. And by the way, The Guardian in Great Britain, rabidly anti-Trump. It's a very left-wing newspaper, rabidly pro-Kamala Harris. So let the British newspaper break it first, and then, because it's BS, that's the modus operandi of the American media. Let the British media break it first, and then say, well, The Guardian just came out with a story, so we're just reporting on the original reporting. Oh, this looks really bad. Wolf, this looks really bad. Anderson, another woman, Anderson. How much more can women take of this? It was clearly a coordinated assassination, a coordinated hatchet job against Trump through the Kamala campaign. But they've got one seminal problem. She is adamant on the timeline. Dated Jeffrey Epstein in 1992, met Trump in 1993, and in 1993, she said, I was at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. She gives the address, and we went over to Trump Tower. There's only one problem. Jeffrey Epstein never owned his mansion in New York until 1996. 3 years after the alleged offense. Now, by 1996, she was no longer with Jeffrey Epstein. She was only with Epstein for a short period of time. So it had to be, in her mind, look, we weren't dating past 1993. So it couldn't have happened. Her entire story is 1,000% made up, fabricated. You know what I want to say, but the FCC will take me off the air. Bull, you know what? BS, bullcrap. This reeks of desperation. Another slanderous, false accusation. And the reason why they're doing it is because not enough women are voting for Kamala. Trump is killing it with men. He's doing very good among women. They need to have more women to go out against Trump. So here we go. Now they charge him with a sexual assault, this mother accusation. 6:18 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Text line is burning up already. 70470. 70470. This is from Vince in Florida. Jeff. Quote unquote, Donald Trump was in fact the second gunman on the grassy knoll. Kamala Harris later today. Yeah, that's pretty much, I'm telling you. That's, I wouldn't be shocked if they came out with that this weekend, Vince. We found out the second gunman. It was Trump. I mean, this is so pathetic. It really is. By the way, many of you are asking me, texting the Kuhner man, actually even calling in and emailing, saying, Jeff, what is the name of this latest accuser? Stacey Williams. She is a former model, a longtime hardcore Democrat activist. This is completely political. And now she's alleging 31 years ago that Donald Trump was just basically, she was handed to Trump by Jeffrey Epstein when they went to visit him in Trump Tower, and in a room full of people in which nobody said anything at the time. Nobody has said anything since. She hasn't said anything in 31 years. All of a sudden, 10 days before the election, he just started to grope her right on the spot. And with a sinister laugh, he's laughing, Epstein's laughing. This is now what she's claiming. As I said, the only problem is she insists it happened in 1993, that they were at Epstein's mansion. Then they walked over to Trump Tower. Epstein did not have his New York mansion until 1996. So if you're going to make a lie, if you're going to fabricate a lie, this is my advice to the Democrats, come up with a story that can't be so easily disproven. This is pure slander, pure defamation. Honestly, it's sickening how they just keep doing this. You know, you can't do this. If this was a private citizen, you're talking millions of dollars in damages. And this is the point that Mark makes on Messenger, and he's completely right. He's dead on. Jeff, do they really think we're that stupid to believe yet another sexual abuse fairy tale about Trump 10 days before the election? How convenient. Out of the blue, after 31 years, this bullcrap allegedly comes out, but nothing was said for 31 years? Multiple question marks? How much was this liar paid? They're doing this because they see Kamala is bleeding women voters. Jeff, this is out of control. And people need to be held accountable for this defamation and these false accusations. Can't say it on the air, I am effing sick of it. I agree with you. I think what you're saying now, I think sums up not just every Trump voter and Trump supporter. Honestly, now I think it's most of the country. Like, this is really sickening. Beat him on the issues. Tell me where Kamala is better than Trump. Instead, it's smear, 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 lie, lie, lie. Okay, 617-266-6868. Mike, who do you want me to go to first? Dan in Las Vegas? All right, Dan in Las Vegas. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Hey,
hi, Dan.
So I'm out in Vegas on business. You know,
you get around, man. Really, it's Dan in Florida, Dan in Georgia, Dan in South Carolina, Dan. So now you're in Las Vegas, Nevada, Dan.
Las Vegas, and I had no idea. I get the text this morning that from Charlie Clerk's site that he's going to be in Vegas tonight and blah blah blah. So, anyways, I got tickets and I went to the event. I can tell you. So Trump actually hinted at this. He did not discuss it, but he hinted at it, and basically said that everything he does is wrong with the press. Everything he does. So he was the best I've ever seen him. Tonight he was the coolest. He was the calmest. He was the best I've ever seen him. The room had 29,000 people in it. They went crazy, cheering. He called out different, ethnic groups, and they all cheered. He did a big press for the Filipinos in Las Vegas, a big population of Filipinos. He said that, he wants to start wearing the Filipino clothing. It'll make him look good with all the flashy colors. He was honestly spot on great. So I may have been wrong, Jeff. I think he's going to take it.
Oh, Dan. Oh, so you're reversing your initial prediction, Dan.
I am reversing. So this morning I went for a run. Planet Hollywood has a sign up taking the odds on the election. They're at 59 Trump, 41 Harris this morning. Before he came to Vegas tonight and lit the town on fire.
Dan, if you don't mind me asking, because we still have about another minute left before I got to go to break, what made you change your mind?
So I honestly thought that the press was going to push so hard that either one, he wasn't going to be able to win, or two, they would cheat enough so that he wouldn't win. Tonight, after talking to so many people here in Las Vegas, people that come in from Arizona, I think I honestly think that it would be a major, major problem with the people, the voting public, if he doesn't win. Now, I've said all along that, look what happened on January 6th. No one jumped up to help the poor people that got locked up. When Steve Bannon went to jail, when Navarro went to jail, when Stone went to jail, everybody, let it go. I honestly think the people are getting to the point where they're fed up enough that they're not going to put up with it.
Interesting. Dan, thank you. I know it's, what is it, Dan? You're 2 hours behind there in Nevada? Yeah, so, I know that 3 hours behind. So you're really calling in the middle of the night there. Just came back from the rally with Trump. Dan, thank you for staying up so late where you are and giving us that vital information. Dan, God bless you and get some sleep, my friend. You heard Dan. Trump is on fire. 631 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868. So I guess their first October surprise, the one yesterday, that Trump is Hitler. Guess it didn't surprise enough. Apparently didn't do well in the polls. They fizzled. So now they've dragged up an ex-model. Her name is Stacey Williams. As I said, she's a diehard Democrat activist who now is claiming that 31 years ago, President Trump at Trump Tower inappropriately touched her. So this was in 1993, according to her. And here's what she told The Guardian. By the way, she knew nothing, she said, about Epstein's pedophile proclivities, that, he was into kids. She said she had no clue. And that he was a serial sexual abuser, she had no clue. But Jeffrey, as she calls him, was her boyfriend at the time. It began in 1992, lasted for a while in 1993, and then the relationship, ended. And that, she says, is when he took her from their mansion, his mansion, to go meet Donald Trump. And so here's what she wrote. Here's what she claimed, according to The Guardian. This is the story they reported on yesterday. Quote, "It became very clear then that he," meaning Epstein, "and Donald were really, really good friends and spent a lot of time together." And then she said, hey, Epstein, they were in their mansion, his mansion, and he said, hey, let's go for a stroll. And we can stop by Trump Tower. And she said, oh, great, I'd love to meet Trump. So she says she walks into Trump Tower. And again, this is in front of, all these people there. And Trump grabbed her, pulled her toward him, and started groping her. And here's what she said exactly to The Guardian. She said he put his hands, quote unquote, all over my breasts, as well as her waist and her buttocks. She said she froze because she was, quote unquote, deeply confused about what was happening. At the same time, she said she believed she saw the two men smiling at each other. Okay. Yeah, okay, right. And if you believe this, I'm telling you, I've got some swampland in Florida you may be interested in. And the Trump campaign has come out saying unequivocally, this is garbage, this is false, this is coming straight from the desperate Kamala campaign. In fact, it was unveiled on a conference call with Kamala's people and the media. And as I said, Epstein didn't even buy his mansion until 1996. So this could not have happened. No witnesses said it happened. No one at the time said it happened. She never told anybody for 31 years it happened. All of a sudden now, you can say, at this point, really, you can say anything about Donald Trump. Here, let me make some news. He raped me. I went to Trump Tower. It was 30 years ago. I was a student at the time, and I said, who is the man that wrote The Art of the Deal? I want to meet him. And they said, yes. And then he hauled me into his office. He closed the door. I was shocked. I was confused. I didn't know what was going to happen. And he raped me. I'm a victim of rape. I could say anything. Now, I'm telling you, it's about what is it now, 11 days? Its next is going to be sex with animals, pigs or goats or cows or whatever. He was on a farm. He visited the farm, and there was a cow. He walked over to the cow, and I heard some funny sounds. It's going to be that, or he's molesting children. Again, you know me. I never make light of sexual assault. I never make light of rape. But this is pure garbage. And I'm going to tell you this, in all seriousness. You know how many legitimate cases of rape there are in this country? And it's because of women like this, with their slanderous lies. They undermine the credibility of real women when they face real sexual assault and real rape. And now it's just, as I said yesterday, now you throw as much mud on the wall and see what can stick. And by the way, something is happening with the Kamala campaign. I just want to make this point and go right to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. Something strange is happening with the Kamala campaign. Trump is now surging in the polls. His rallies now, there was one in Georgia. It was like the Super Bowl. The crowd size was immense. I mean, even the media was saying, wow. I mean, we're talking like basically filled a stadium, the equivalent of a stadium. So he's got a big early lead in these swing states in the voting. The polls now are showing he's starting to run away with it. She's bleeding now with every single demographic, every single one. But the big one is she's losing male voters. She's losing black men. She's losing Latino men in huge numbers. She's lost most white men. The working class has completely abandoned Kamala and the Democrats. So now they're desperate to get any votes they can. And that's why they're trying to turn him into the boogeyman, into Hitler, into a monster. Now let's get this woman to come out and make this outrageous accusation. Anything now to try to stop or blunt Trump's momentum and, more importantly, her downfall. She's now in a downward spiral. Now, you've got less than 2 weeks in the campaign. Every day, every hour, every minute now is vital. She took 2 days off. Kamala Harris literally took 2 full days off. Nobody knows why. She went to Washington, D.C. No one saw her. No one heard from her. And something is up. Has she thrown in the towel? I'm not saying she is. I'm asking. Has she thrown in the towel? Is she emotionally or psychologically melting down in the face of this historic collapse down the stretch? Is she going back to the drinky? Or back to the, yeah, man, the puff, the marijuana, the drugs? Something is going on behind the scenes. But this is completely abnormal within the Kamala campaign. There's infighting. There's backbiting. You have CNN now that's saying she's horrible. She did their recent CNN town hall. It was a disaster. I'm going to play you some of the clips later. I'm talking the most basic questions. What's your biggest mistake in life? What are some of your weaknesses and how do you plan to overcome them? These are the most basic. They're not even softball. They're beach ball questions. And she mumbled and she stumbled. You got to see the answer. She sounds like an idiot. As Mel Gibson said, Mel Gibson was asked recently, who are you going to vote for? And he said Trump. And he said, because Kamala Harris has the IQ of a fence post, quote unquote. When you see that performance on CNN, I mean, you have to have the IQ, I'm not kidding, of 0 to vote for her. Who would vote for this blathering idiot? So she's falling apart. Something she's psychologically unraveling. The campaign is in shambles. She's flailing. She's no longer even campaigning. It's like she's given up and thrown in the towel. Or they're just going to just steal it. Like, in other words, she's so lazy. That's another thing. Trump's theory is that she's just lazy. That she's never put in any effort her entire life. This is the most effort she's ever had to put into anything. And she can't do it. Because she's been so privileged and spoon-fed and entitled her entire life. Everything was given to her. And now that she actually has to earn something on her own and fight for something on her own, she just can't do it. And now, she's on the floor, in a fetal position and, in a corner sucking her thumb. Whatever it is, there is something now that is happening to the Kamala Harris campaign that has never happened in a presidential campaign that I can possibly think of. She's basically now incognito and she's thrown in the towel. 617-266-6868 is the number. I'm going to go to Betty in Georgia. Betty, I don't want to do it now because I'm up against a break. So we're going to come right back to you on the other side. Is this race effectively now over? I don't want to be overconfident, but Hitler 2.0 didn't work. Now you're getting 31-year-old sexual assault allegations that are being disproven before it even comes out of the alleged victim's mouth. And Kamala Harris has just stopped campaigning. Your calls next. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Trump is now surging, and the left and the Democrats are now panicking. 617-266-6868. Let's go right to Betty in Georgia. Thanks for holding, Betty, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you, Betty?
Oh, my gosh. I'm doing good. I'm just traveling to Georgia to see Paula Dean for an event. Actually bringing Trump cookies for an auction item. But I got to tell you, I think the choice is wicked clear, as we say in Boston. Wicked clear. I mean, this is over. It's actually painful to watch Kamala speak about anything. I mean, I have to go away from the TV. It's, and like you said, Jeff, if they would just tell you why you want us to vote for Kamala, just tell us one thing, two things. Tell us something why she's the best candidate for the job. I mean, she's just not. They're so inauthentic. It's so painful to watch. And then you turn over and there's Trump. I mean, at McDonald's, are you kidding me? I was laughing. I'm still laughing about that. He's having such a good time. And, if they would just look at it, like, here's a guy who loves our country. I mean, it's so plain to see, and you just shake your head like, why aren't people seeing this? He's having fun. I mean, I'm going through the airport wearing my, as I call it, my Trump uniform hat, always. And, I mean, I'm talking to strangers. I'm giving cookies to little kids. We're cracking up. Everybody loves the guy. So when they're telling us that the polls are like even, it's neck and neck, I'm like, don't believe it. He's a clear choice. I mean, he is just unbelievable. They don't make him like this guy. He's just a miracle man, really. He is.
Well, Betty, look, it's the mainstream media now, and I don't care for them at all, but even they are now acknowledging there's 4 big polls that just came out, and even now they're admitting Trump is ahead. And the Wall Street Journal, it was front page yesterday's paper. Actually, I still have it on my desk. I'm staring practically right at it as I'm talking to you. Trump, according to the Wall Street Journal poll, they're now saying Trump in the last 2 weeks has made a huge surge. He's now up +2 in the national popular vote. Now, +2, you may think, well, that's not much. In the battleground states, he is killing Kamala. +5, +7, +8. Because remember, Kamala is very strong in places like California, Illinois, some of these big blue states. So, the national popular vote doesn't really determine the election. If the national popular vote is tied, Trump wins the Electoral College easy. So for a Democrat to win, they have to really, be up 3, up 4 in the national popular vote. So the fact that she's losing the national popular vote means in reality in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, New Hampshire, our neck of the woods, Trump is pulling away with it. Now, and they openly admit that. They're saying Kamala's people are now in full panic mode. They are nervous. They see this election, their words, slipping away from her. So you're completely right. Even the fake news media is having to say, no, you look at the poll. Vegas is now predicting a Trump victory. These are people that put their money where their mouth is. So increasingly now you have Democratic activists, liberal columnists are now, there's columns now saying we should never have gotten rid of Biden. Now they're saying they have like buyer's remorse. It's like, we should have kept Biden. You would have done better under Biden. So the bottom is now coming out. And Betty, to be honest, you're right. It's now every time she opens her mouth. She goes to NBC News to do a friendly interview. It's a bomb. She goes to CNN. This is CNN. She does a town hall with the silver-haired guy, Anderson Cooper. They put in the room nothing but Kamala's supporters. How do you bomb that? And yet she still managed to turn in an absolute disaster of a performance. To the point is, and I'll play the cuts, Betty, Van Jones is ripping her. Axelrod is ripping her. Dana Bash is ripping her. All these left-wing CNN anti-Trump panelists are like, she's horrible. Oh my God, this was a disaster. Oh my God, she's blowing it. They're in stunned disbelief. And look, you can look at any presidential campaign. Betty, take my word for it as an American historian. When you have less than 2 weeks to go, I don't care who the candidate was, they campaign like demons. You got to go all out. They're doing 4, 5, 6 town halls, rallies a day. I mean, they're 20-hour days. I mean, they kill themselves when it's down the stretch. She takes not 1, but 2 full days off. And it's not, she's meeting with donors. She's raising money. And she's got over $1 billion in her war chest. They got more money than Trump could ever imagine for a campaign. And she's gone. She disappears. Like, literally, the campaign says she's unavailable today. Like, what do you mean? Nah, she's just the whole day. She's taking it off. What? And then, no, she's taking 2 days off. And now we don't know what she's going to do this weekend. And that's why the speculation is she doing drugs? Is she drinking? Has she just gone into a room and gone into the fetal position? Is she having a nervous or psychological breakdown? Like, something is not right. This is not normal. This has never happened before. So, Betty, I don't know what it is, but look at Trump. I've never seen him more cool, calm, supremely confident in his life. And today, he's going on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's going to break the internet. He's going to go on a podcast full of independents, full of younger voters in their 20s and 30s. He's going to go right for the demographic that historically has voted Democrat. If he kills this podcast today, if he hits it out of the park and puts in a performance like I know he's capable of and what he's been doing lately, this thing could be over by tonight. Betty, I'm telling you, if he can conquer Joe Rogan, I don't see how Kamala wins. Honestly, I really don't. Final word to you, Betty.
I mean, Jeff, just bottom line. She's so unqualified, so out of her league. But I just want to say, really, to all of us, especially the media, how shameful, because you know what? What a colossal waste of time, money, and energy. You know, that all these people want to, okay, let's take all this time up and all this jazz, and like knowing that they're lying through the teeth, that she's not qualified. And look at how many people in America that we could have helped. All this money wasted. And you say she has all this money. Money doesn't buy anything. She's not that smart. She can't do the job. Unqualified. And again, I just want to repeat, what a colossal waste of time, and shame on all these politicians, all these news people that are just lying and just saying this narrative. It's a disgrace. And go Trump. He is on fire. I can't wait to listen to him today on Rogan.
Betty, God bless you and enjoy Georgia. Enjoy Paula Dean. Betty, thank you very much for that call. No, look, I mean, this thing really could be over tonight. Now, again, I never would be overconfident. We all have to vote. We all have to do our part. But I'm just calling it as it is. This is the dynamic of the race right now. And Trump now has all the wind in his back. There's no question now. You know, look, any Democrat who's half honest will tell you, I'd much rather be Trump than Kamala at this point in the race. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, is this Sleepy Dan? Dan in Plymouth? Sleepy Dan. So just if you missed it, because this was later in the show yesterday, first time in the history of Kuhner country, we go to a caller. We thought initially it was a gag. And there was a person on the other end snoring. I'm talking sucking deep air in a deep sleep. I'm talking. I'm like, boy, I wish I could sleep like that, you know? And it was Dan in Plymouth. Sleepy Dan fell asleep while listening to the Kuhner Report. History in the making. He's now called back. I hope you're awake. Dan, people thought maybe you were Joe Biden. They said, I can't believe it, Jeff. You got Joey on the phone, but it ended up being you. Dan, are you awake?
And like a lot of your audience, Jeff, I work double shifts and I work two jobs, and I was just flat out exhausted. But to stay on topic, Jeff. Look, I think it's fair to say that Kamala Harris was an affirmative action baby, and I'm not saying all affirmative action babies are lazy, but I think she's the person who throughout her whole career was given the answers to the test but never bothered to read the answers. And she thought she could phone it in, and she realizes it doesn't work. She's committed one of the cardinal sins if you were in sales, and that is she's negative selling. She's not telling people why to buy from her. She's telling people why not to buy from Trump. It doesn't work. That's not human nature. People want to buy. People want to know, why should I buy from you? And she has yet to give them a compelling answer to why they should buy from her. And to Trump's credit, he has stayed on point, which is the ABCs: affordability, border security, and control of mass illegal migration. It's a winning message. And for all those candidates out there, if you stay on the ABCs, you should come out ahead.
Dan, if you don't mind me asking before I let you go, my friend, because I'm sure you pulled another double shift, so I'm sure you must be tired. You want to go to bed. Is the show that boring that I put you to sleep? Was it the show, or was it the fact that you worked so hard yesterday?
You know, it wasn't. The topic yesterday was so rich. I really wanted to put my perspective on it. It was just that I've been flat out exhausted. Remember, I'm running for Congress, so I'm working on about 2-3 hours of sleep a day. It's half of what I normally get, so I'm really burning the candles at both ends. But as you noted, you know, everybody's going to the mat over the next week and a half, and we got Kamala Harris, and the only thing she appears to be doing is not hitting the mat, but hitting the bottle.
Oh, Dan, that's a good one. Dan, I want to congratulate you. That call yesterday with you snoozing on the phone, the best Joe Biden imitation ever. So, Dan, congratulations. You just did it, my friend. You impersonated the president, and everybody believed you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Carlos on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Carlos, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. So it's been a little while. So, Jeff, as a truck driver, I'm out here talking. I deliver fish, and I talk to a lot of people, different demographics. I talk to Vietnamese. I talk to Spanish. I talk to Portuguese. I talk to Brazilians. And everybody out here, when I'm walking around, I have my Trump shirts on, my hat. They give me the thumbs up. So the Democrats with Kamala and Obama, did you see Obama yesterday on the stage with her? It was, I had chills because he was pointing her which way to get off the stage. It almost reminiscent when he helped Biden get off the stage. I don't know if you saw that, but that's what happened yesterday. So when I talk to these people, they're all for Trump, and I don't understand how the Democrats want to fearmonger. They try to do that, Jeff. So what did all these dictators? They keep calling Trump a dictator, right? So what did all these dictators used to do, right? Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Castro, they all would yell and scream in their speeches, pound the table. Biden did that. Hillary does that. Kamala just did that. Here's Trump, nice and calm, like you said earlier. He's nice and calm. He's poised. He's ready. He's having fun. And him being on Joe Rogan today, like you said, is going to show the people that are undecided. Because, Jeff, I tell you right now, my girl's at work, and she deals with a lot of Spanish people, okay? And they're all voting for Trump, too. They were all about voting for Biden back in 2020. But guess what? They're already changing. They're seeing what's going on. She's talking about, like, what are you talking about? Why are you watching these programs, CNN and all this? They're lying to you. And now, Jeff, this next story that just came out with another woman, it's not going to work, Jeff. It's not going to work. They could try it. And like you said, the women see it now. And I say that he's going to win more than 5 points, Jeff. He's going to win by 6. That's my guess right there. 6 points, and he's going to get the popular vote. And all these shenanigans, all these tricks that they're trying, that's the October surprise, Jeff. They're going to do all the tricks, but we're going to get all the treats.
Well, you know, Carlos, it's funny. I love the way you phrase that, by the way. It's funny you should mention that. This is now, again, I don't want to pop champagne corks early. I don't want to come across as overconfident. I'm just reporting what they're saying, okay? The Trump campaign now in private, this is now what they're saying. They are now looking at a quote-unquote, almost what you said, Carlos, +5, +6, a narrow landslide. In other words, you know, it's not going to be a 10, 15-point mother blowout. But it's going to be a landslide, not a massive landslide, but, you know, like a good landslide. And, you know, an incontestable, incontrovertible landslide, a narrow landslide. So, you know, from your lips to God's ears and from their lips to God's ears. Look, that's the way it looks now. Now, anything can happen. The Democrats are going to try to cheat. They're going to try to steal. We know that. They're already trying to steal and cheat. So that's why I'm just waiting for election night and a couple days after, and then we will definitely know. But as things stand right now, Trump is on the trajectory to come back to the White House. Carlos, thank you very much for that call. And look, just very, very quick, because this needs to be said. To be fair to the Democrats, you know, the expression, give the devil his due. To give the devil his due, Democrats didn't want, I don't mean the elites, I'm talking rank and file Democrat voters, did not want Kamala Harris. This was, I think, the fatal mistake that the party elites made. They never wanted Kamala Harris. She never even made it to Iowa. You know, people say, you know, she got 1 or 2%. No, she didn't get she didn't get a single vote ever in the 2020 Democrat presidential primary. She polled at 1% in the polls, but she never literally got one ballot or one vote. Now, when they overthrew Biden, what was that, 4 months ago, whenever that took place, there was a massive poll held among Democratic primary voters. Okay, they had 14 million votes for Joe Biden. They overturned the will of the people. 13 candidates were on that ballot. Okay, they're running these polls. There was Hillary Clinton. There was, I mean, you can run the Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Roy Cooper, Michelle Obama. It was candidate. Do you know where Kamala Harris finished in that Democrat poll? Dead last. dead last among Democrats. She finished 13th out of 13 possible candidates. So what I'm just saying is, to give the devil his due, or its due, Democratic voters didn't want Kamala because they all knew she's horrible. She's awful. She's a disaster. And so what did the idiots do? They foisted Kamala. Well, now, I'm sorry, it's too late. And that's why they're going down. They literally picked the worst possible candidate to run. If it's possible, even worse than Joe Biden. Okay. Well, now comes the reckoning. 617-266-6868. Cheryl in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Cheryl, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Good morning, Cheryl. How are you?
Good morning. 40 years ago, I went into a McDonald's, and when I went into the ladies' room, I was there for a couple of minutes, and a woman walked in, and she started kissing my neck, and the next thing I know, she's trying to take my shirt off, and it turns out it was Kamala Harris. This thing is so ridiculous. If they're trying to appeal to the male voters, I don't know how they think they're going to get men to vote for her when any man knows that somewhere down the line in his life, a woman could come out, and I'm with you. I believe women, but this woman is making other women that are true victims look really bad.
Bingo.
So it's kind of a Hail Mary. It's not going to work. It's game over as far as I'm concerned, and I can't wait to sit on election night and watch all the crybabies. I'm going to get a few extra TVs so I can have them all on at the same time. I don't have to switch channels and watch them all crying.
Cheryl, I got to tell you, you hit this one out of the park. I mean, a brilliant call. And the one I really want to watch is Mika Brzezinski. Oh, I hope they have her on election night. Oh, on MS Left BC. Cheryl, I've got a clip for all of you. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. She's already snapping on the air. She's losing her mind. And we're still 10 days out. What's going to happen on election night? Oh, you got to hear this. You want a great laugh? You got to hear Mika. Cheryl, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868. We're going to have some fun, Kuhner Country. I've got some clips for you next. 719 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, panic and now desperation is starting to grip not just the Kamala campaign, but now much of the so-called corporate media, the fake news media industrial complex. Don't take my word for it. This is Mika Brzezinski, okay, on Morning Joe. The audio is dramatic enough, but you have to picture her face. Think of someone in anguish, her eyes bulging, and I'm not kidding, tears swelling up. The woman is on the verge of crying. She's got 4 male panelists in front of her. They are looking like they're at a funeral. And they're looking at all these batch of polls. And it's starting to dawn on them. She can't catch Trump. And not only the polls, the early voting now is favoring Trump. The turnout is favoring Trump. The swing states are now lining up very well for Trump. The demographics now that she is losing, that she's bleeding with, she cannot make up with so-called suburban college-educated female voters. They're starting to see this election and their grip on power slipping away. And listen now to Mika. she was on the verge of a full-blown nervous breakdown. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. Roll cut 18. Mike.
As important as Trump's fascism is, and is the lead story every day, his cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our veterans, and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries, it's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us women. He's killing us. He is putting us at risk. He is making us afraid to have babies. He is putting our reproductive health at risk, and some women have died already because of this. So we can see right now what's coming.
It's so over the top. It's like the hysteria. He's killing us. We're dying already. We're dying. The guy hasn't even been elected yet. He's already killing people. I swear, this is what passes for so-called analysis on LSD. And you got to see, there's Mike Barnacle, that plagiarizing hack, and these other, liberal hacks, and they're nodding their head, and they're all so serious, and they're like, oh my God, it's just, it's like a funeral, where the patriarch just died. And they're like, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do now? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Here is the disaster. There's no getting around this, okay? You got to hear this. So, Kamala Harris goes on a CNN town hall. This is CNN. And she's asked by someone and this is a completely friendly town hall. Either they're Kamala Harris voters, or they're seriously leaning towards voting for Comrade Kamala. And so the simple question, it's the most easy. Every politician should be prepared and is prepared for this question. No, one, what are some of the mistakes that you've made in your life? And what are some of your weaknesses? What are some of your weaknesses, and how do you plan to rectify that? Okay? Now, you can give a million answers, but not Kamala. So listen to this word salad. Roll cut 6. Mike.
Well, I am certainly not perfect. So let's start there. And I think that perhaps a weakness, some would say, but I actually think it's a strength, is I really do value having a team of very smart people around me who bring to my decision-making process different perspectives.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then she continues. So it's not really a weakness, it's a strength. I like to have a team. I like to have a team of really smart people. I like to have different perspectives. And you can tell the audience is looking, Anderson Cooper is looking at her like, this is the easiest question just answer the damn question. But no. Listen to Kamala. Roll cut 6A. She continues. Mike.
My team will tell you, I am constantly saying, let's kick the tire on that. Let's kick the tires on it. Because, as I mentioned earlier, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a courtroom prosecutor. I've tried everything from low-level offenses to homicides. And I learned at a very early stage of my career and adult life that my actions have a direct impact on real people in a very fundamental way. When I was Attorney General of California, I was Attorney General of what is the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
And acutely aware that my words could move markets.
Yeah.
So I take my role and responsibility as an elected leader very seriously, and I know the impact it has on so many people I may never meet.
You're more.
And that is why I engage and bring folks around.
Yep. It's just the question was, what are your weaknesses and how do you overcome them? So what's a weakness? What's a weakness? I mean, this is a minute and a half now. This is how she ends her answer. 6B, Mike.
So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes. I confess. And some might call that a weakness, especially if you're, in an interview or just kind of, being asked a certain question and you're expected to have the right answer right away. But that's how I work.
That was her answer. Anderson Cooper then tries to save her. He says, okay, well, let me ask you this then. Is there anything you regret in your entire career? She can't answer. This blithering, blathering idiot. This is their nominee? 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quickly, the text line it's going to burn. I mean, it's it's going to blow. This is from 603. Jeff, you would think that before these fraudsters go public with these salacious accusations of sexual assault against Trump, that they would at least do a little homework to make sure their stories line up with little details like, I don't know, timelines. Another reason why I don't think this story is getting legs is because so much of the public has woken up to the mainstream media constantly crying wolf. They have lost all credibility with the public. You're dead on, 602. This ridiculous accusation now of sexual assault against Trump by a woman, Stacey Williams. 31 years ago, she claims it allegedly happened. And what is it now? 11 days before the election, they dredged this thing up. And she says, no. In 1993 is when I met him at Trump Tower, and I was then the girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein, and we went from his mansion. And she even gives the address of the mansion to make it seem like, she's adding credibility, detail. And she says, so we went from Jeffrey's mansion, walked over into Trump Tower, and then he introduced me to Trump. And in front of a room full of people, Trump he grabbed my boobs, my top, my rear end. He just was grabbing me, and they were laughing, and this evil smile on Epstein's face and Trump's face, and they looked at each other, and ha, 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 this is how you treat women. Jeffrey Epstein didn't purchase his mansion until 1996. They weren't dating in 1996. By her own admission, by the end of 93, they had broken up. So literally, it could not have happened. This is what I mean. It is such, it's like the calumnious charge, the defamatory charge. He's Hitler 2.0, based on what evidence? And then when they start trying to give you evidence, literally you got over a dozen people in the room, eyewitnesses saying, he never said that. You're lying. So, I mean, if you're going to lie, at least get your timeline straight, stupid. 617-266-6868. This is from 803, and it's a brilliant point about Trump going on the Rogan podcast today. And as I said, I think it really could end the campaign right here, right now. Jeff, both candidates were supposed to go on with Joe Rogan. I didn't know that. That was the condition Rogan laid out to do these interviews. At first, Kamala Harris agreed. So he booked both guests. But then Kamala chickened out and backed out of the interview. But Trump is still going full steam ahead, just like with the Al Smith dinner. Personally, I think Kamala is crumbling under the pressure and criticism coming from her own side. Consider her meltdown after going on with Brett Boring. She just broke and shattered like glass. Bingo. I think that's what's happening. You're watching now her psychologically, emotionally disintegrate in front of our eyes. And here, look, CNN, you don't get friendlier, you don't get easier, and to even make it even more easy, load it up with a room of so-called quote-unquote undecided voters. To show you how rigged the whole thing was, they had professors who are championing Kamala on campus. Nobody there was an undecided voter. Every single one of them is voting for Kamala. So it's a room full of her voters and supporters, asking her the easiest, most basic questions, like the one I played just before the break. So, what are some of your weaknesses and how do you plan to overcome them? Here you go. I'm not throwing you a softball. Here's a freaking mother beach ball. It's an air ball so big even a 2-year-old can hit it. Here it is, Commie. Here it is. And it's no answer. Word salad, cackling, laughing, completely unprepared. I don't know if she's honestly stupid or incredibly lazy or incredibly entitled and privileged, who's never had to work a day in her life, or a combination of all three. But I've never seen anything like this. You go on the friendliest media outlets possible, and your poll numbers keep going down. I mean, in other words, this is what the media is saying. We can't prop her up. She's so incompetent. Look, we can't carry her. She's that incompetent. Very quickly, because I want to go back to the phone lines. This is Scott Jennings again. CNN. Roll cut 17. Mike.
I mean, look, she doesn't have to be...
I do think it was very well said.
She doesn't have to be flawless, but she has to give you something. I mean, she's like a true double threat. She's terrible on her feet when she gets unexpected questions, and simultaneously, she can't even answer the expected questions. It's nothing. You'd think she'd be prepared to do this by now. What's a mistake you've made? Nothing. What's a weakness you have? Nothing. What's the first law you want to pass? Nothing. What's a policy difference between you and Joe Biden? Nothing. Over and over and over. Empty. If she were an animal, she'd be a duck-billed platitude.
But look,
it's a total word salad.
Okay, here's Van Jones. I'm just sure. This is CNN. This is what I'm telling you. This is CNN. By the way, first time in I don't know how many decades, the liberal, in fact, the ultra-liberal Los Angeles Times endorsed Obama, endorsed Hillary, endorsed Biden. They're not endorsing Kamala Harris. The Washington Post endorsed Obama, endorsed Hillary, endorsed Biden. They are not endorsing Kamala Harris. Now, they're not endorsing Trump, obviously. But that they're not endorsing Kamala? I mean, that is a damning vote of no confidence. Listen now. Here's Van Jones, the organizer, the communist himself. Roll cut 17A. Mike.
She passed that test. I think that the word salad stuff gets on my nerves. I think that some of the evasions are not necessary. But when she's talking about trying to get you a house, I believe her.
Yeah, well, good for you. But the fact is, the word salads are getting on his nerves, and they're not just getting on everyone else's nerves. They see right through her. She's a fraud. She's an empty vessel. She's a puppet. She's a creature of the machine. And that's why she's going down, and that's why she's melting down. Joe in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Jeff?
Joe, you're on the air. Go ahead, my friend.
Jeff. I love you in a non-sexual way, but I hate when you get too giddy like this.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead, my friend. Please get your point across.
I have that gnawing in the back of my head that she's taking these days off because she knows the sale is on. And we have to keep the pedal to the metal.
Well, Joe, look, I definitely agree with you. We have to keep the pedal to the metal. That, I agree with you, not 100, 1,000%. I want to go back to your first point, Joe. So you think she's taking these days off because she's convinced they're going to steal it for her, correct?
Correct. Jeff, I went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning in 2020, and I said, wow, this man pulled it off again. And then I get up the next morning, and they're still counting. And a week later, they're still counting. If we don't know election night in 2024 who won, we're in trouble.
Joe, if I can put you on the spot, I know there's still, 10, 11 days, whatever it is, left to go. If you were to predict this race right now today, what will happen? What do you think happens? Does Trump win, or do the Democrats succeed in stealing it?
If it's free and fair, like you always say, we win in a landslide. But we have to keep our eye on the prize.
I agree with you. Joe, I completely agree with you. Joe, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. No, look, they're starting now. You're starting to see cracks now in the Democrat machine. I mean, that's all I'm pointing out. And look, Kamala's getting increasingly dark, angry, honestly hysterical, and it's not working. Everything they're throwing at Trump, it's not working. And you have her own side now, calling her out, attacking her, saying she's a horrible candidate. They're starting to openly panic about the election. So what I'm starting to think, I gotta be, if I'm not here to tell you the truth, at least the way I see it, then there's no point in me being behind this microphone. I think some are starting to conclude this now may be too big to rig. That Trump has that much support that this time they just may not be able to steal it. 748 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to go a little early with Kuhner's call log because at 8 o'clock, yes, we'll be joined by Dinesh D'Souza. Again, he's got a new book out along with his movie, Vindicating Trump. So we're going to be talking to him about the state of the race, Kamala, the allegations against Trump, that he's a Nazi, a Hitler, and of course, what has happened now with his movie and what he thinks will happen on election night. So it's coming up in about 11 minutes. You don't want to miss it. Must listen to radio. Christy in Grafton. Thanks for holding, Christy, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I love your show, and I especially loved it yesterday. Today's great, too. I'm calling because I want to reach out to all independents and Republicans in Massachusetts in particular. You know, our state does normally go blue, not red, but please, I beg you, do not sit out this election. There is too much at stake here, not only nationally, but in our own state with some of the questions they have on our ballot. I don't know about you, Jeff, but there has been very few times lately that I can drive around Massachusetts with my windows rolled down, getting fresh air, that I don't feel like I'm at an AC/DC concert breathing pot. If we actually pass the psychedelic mushroom bill, don't you think that people are going to be driving even higher? And we've got our families on the roads with us. We also have an amazing senatorial candidate running against Warren, the more of us that get out and vote in Massachusetts, we just might be able to get rid of Warren as our representative and finally have a say nationally. And third, my other point is my child is a junior in North Carolina in college, and she has been to both a Trump town hall in Fayetteville with her boyfriend, and also this past Tuesday, she attended the Trump rally in Greensboro, North Carolina. I know that usually people are saying that college students are going to vote for Harris. I really think that a lot of college students are waking up and realizing that their futures are at stake, that we could be facing World War III if they vote for Harris. And I think that they're getting past Trump and how he can be at times, a little abrasive and, as people say here in Massachusetts all the time, not presidential. But I really think people need to get over that and really think about freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and what happens if World War III does occur. And my child is a female. She brought 6 of her friends with her to the Trump rally on Tuesday night, all female. They're all voting for Trump. We need to think on these things, and we need to vote here in Massachusetts, even though our state normally goes blue.
Oh, Christy, I could not have said it better myself, really. We have to defeat Elizabeth Warren. She's a very unpopular senator who, frankly, has been shafting the people and the taxpayers of Massachusetts now for years. She, to me, is a cancer on this state and a cancer on the body politic. And so that's why I've been urging everybody, go vote Republican right down the ballot. As to the questions, I'm going to be dedicating a good chunk of the show as we approach closer to the election. I agree with you. We've got to discuss some of these ballot questions. And I couldn't agree with you more. The last thing we need are people high on psychedelic mushrooms driving around on roads that are already unsafe. A, this is going to destroy the minds of our youth. These people are insane. And B, it's going to put all of our lives in jeopardy and that of our families and friends on the road. So, Christy, you're completely right. And look, I'm telling you, you can take it to the bank. Trump is going to overperform with women. I'm telling you. You're right. He can be abrasive. He can be a little coarse, a little vulgar. I get it. His personality can rub people the wrong way, but the guy delivers. And you know the expression, he's an SOB, but he's our SOB? When you hear him talk and give interviews, Christy, there was an interview in the Wall Street Journal. In fact, if I have time, I want to read passages from it later in the show, where he really opened up about how he dealt with Putin during his first term. And it's just remarkable how transparent he is. And he says, hey, look, you guys keep criticizing my personality. He's talking to the Wall Street Journal editorial board. He did an interview with their whole board. You keep going on about my language, my demeanor. He goes, you can't have, this is what he said, you can't have Trump policies without my personality. And they said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'll just give you an example. He goes, you don't think Vladimir Putin wanted to invade Ukraine under my watch? Gobble up even more territory? Well, you know what I did? He goes, and you asked Putin if this is true or not. I called him up on the phone. And I said, Vladimir, you're my friend. I don't want to do this to you. But I'm telling you right now, you touch an inch of Ukrainian territory, quote unquote, this is what he said, okay? I will blow the effing domes above your head. You know the Kremlin? It's got these beautiful domes, and that's where, the Russian president and his government is. He basically said, I'm going to nuke you. I'm going to nuke the Kremlin. And those beautiful 1,000-year-old domes, I'm going to blow them right off your head. He goes, I don't want to do it, Vladimir. I don't want to do it. But don't force me to do it. And Vladimir said, okay, Donald, I understand. I understand we not touch Ukraine. Okay, it's all good, Donald. It's all good, Donald. We have peace, Donald. So his point is, that I was an agent of Putin is ridiculous. I stopped him in Ukraine because I used our nuclear deterrent and he knew I was serious. He goes, I told the Ayatollahs, don't you touch a hair on the head of a single Jew in Israel. You're gonna regret it for the rest of your lives. I put sanctions on them. I bled them of cash. They had no money to do any terrorism or any attacks. He goes, I'm sorry, but that's what these people respect. Force, strength, determination, deterrence, will. And, and he keeps telling, he does this economically to defend our companies, to defend our interests. And he often says, look, I let the Secretary of Treasury talk. I go and tell the Secretary of State, go, it's your job. They come back and they go, they're not budging. He goes, okay, they're not budging. Put me on the phone. And he goes, every time I'm on the phone, they back down. Why? Because I'm telling them you don't mess with the USA. So he's a pit bull. And the thing is, he's our pit bull. And that's what I think honestly, voters are recognizing. Men, women, black, white, brown, young, old. And I think that's why you're seeing now this remarkable surge in the last couple weeks. Because people remember how it was under the Trump years. They were some of the fattest, in terms of prosperity, some of the fattest years that we've ever had. And we had peace around the world. Because say what you want, Donald Trump delivers. You may not like his style, but the guy delivers. And in the end, to me, that's all that matters. Agree, disagree. Okay, we're going to do it a little bit early because Dinesh is coming on at 8. Kuhner's call log, caller of the week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log,
where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Dan in Plymouth, you've got 1 minute on the nose. Go. Dan? I think Dan is sleeping. Dan is sleeping. Okay. Dan is snoozing. This is, let's see if we can wake up Dan. Dan? Dan? You're on the air, Dan. Dan? Wow. This is... I gotta tell you, usually... Look, he's still snoring. I gotta say, Dan, how does your wife put up with that, man? Can you imagine sleeping beside this guy at night? Look at this. Look at this. Look how loud he's snoring. Look at this. Look at this. I've never, ever put anyone to sleep. This is a first. You're listening to history in the making. Usually, people say, Jeff, you get me high blood pressure. You're like a shot of espresso in the morning. But putting people to sleep, this is a first.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. That may have been the greatest call of all time. And by the way, Dan called earlier today. Maybe most of you, I don't know if you caught it or not, but that was the same Dan, Sleeping Dan. That's his new nickname. Dan in Plymouth, Nurse Dan, who's running for Congress. By the way, I'm urging everybody to vote for him, okay? But let that go. Poor guy was working a double shift. That's what he said. He goes, Kuhner, I was working a double shift. I'm only sleeping 2 to 3 hours a day. It's not you. You didn't put me to sleep. I was just so freaking exhausted. But I mean, am I wrong or am I right? Could you sleep beside this guy? It's the way he snores? I mean, really, if I had to sleep next to that all night, I'd be like, give me the guest bedroom. Okay, we finally made contact with the man himself, Dinesh D'Souza. Not only did he come out with an absolute gem of a movie vindicating Trump, but just in time for the election, he now has a book out with the very same title, dealing with the very same issue and subject. Yes, it's called Vindicating Trump, published by Regnery. Dinesh, how are you?
Jeff, I am doing great and excited about the new book. As you know, sometimes I do the book and the movie as a 1-2 punch. The movie delivers a kind of visual and emotional narrative, and the book systematically makes the case with the appropriate citations and footnotes. So the book is, in a way, going a little deeper than the movie and building out an argument for Trump that I think is quite, well, it's timely, but it's also arresting and original.
Well, I agree with you. And look, Dinesh, I think you really put your finger on it. The case for Trump, you make that case. I think it's one of the most, frankly, brilliant, penetrating books I've ever read, not just on Trump, but on conservatism in general. I know you've written numerous bestsellers. My prediction, this is going to be another one. Dinesh, because I do want to ask you other questions about current events. But to get to the book itself, and I urge everybody in Kuhner country, please go and buy it now. You can go to Amazon.com. You can go to Barnes & Noble, wherever the book, you can get access to the book anywhere. Vindicating Trump by Dinesh D'Souza. You're going to read it in 1 or 2 sittings. It is a phenomenal read. Trust me when I tell you this. Dinesh, what is, for the listener out there, what is the most important point that you want to relate to people about Donald Trump and his enemies?
The central question of the book is a prophecy raised by Lincoln, of all people, in a speech that is now called the Lyceum speech. Lincoln basically predicts that there will come a time in America where tyranny will be a real threat to subvert our constitutional republic. And Lincoln says that this tyranny will come in the form of rising lawlessness in society that is abetted and mobilized by a tyrannical force, a kind of a Caesar that will use it
Dinesh?
To destroy the country.
Did we just lose Dinesh?
No, I'm here.
Let's see. Mike, can we see if we can reconnect with Dinesh?
Hello?
I can't hear a word that he's saying. Mike? No, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I cannot hear you, Mike. Mike, Mike, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Okay. But I can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
All right, we're trying to reconnect with Dinesh. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of a communications glitch.
Hello?
Dinesh, are you there? We lost Dinesh completely. We just lost him. So, okay, let's see if we can get him back on. Ugh. Boy, oh boy, he was on a roll. He was on a roll. I hate it when that happens. Anyway, look, I got to tell you, the book is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, brilliantly written, well written, really makes the case for Trump. And he was building up to his point. Really what Dinesh, I mean, I don't want to speak for Dinesh, but, since reading, I read the book, so I can tell you pretty much what his argument is. We're facing now the prospect of a real progressive, socialist, liberal tyranny under a Harris-Walz administration. That this is not being melodramatic. This is not being exaggerating for effect. This is really now what the left will implement should they get into power. And the biggest, he goes, there's many cases, many arguments, many cases you can make for Trump. But the biggest case is that he's the one now that stands in the way of this complete left-wing socialist far-left takeover of our country. If you want to vote for the Constitution, vote Trump. You want to vote for the Bill of Rights, vote Trump. You want to vote for a secure border, in other words, our country, vote Trump. You want to vote for your economic future? Vote Trump. All right, do we have Dinesh back? All right, Dinesh, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, I hear you loud and clear now. I'm sorry about that. Dinesh, can you please just back it up? The central point of your book, and you said it goes to Lincoln of all people, and then we lost you. If you could please go back there.
Yeah, Lincoln made a prophecy in an early speech called the Lyceum speech, in which he warned that one day America would face a genuine threat of tyranny. And Lincoln said that this will come from a rising tide of lawlessness that will be exploited by a tyrannical regime. He called it maybe a Caesar or a Napoleon who will use this lawlessness to undermine our constitutional republic. Now, many people today on the left will say, oh, yes, well, Lincoln was indeed prophetic. He was warning us about Donald Trump. But that's the question I examine in the book and the film, namely this. Yes, the threat of tyranny today, I believe, is real. But is it coming from Trump or is it coming from the left and the Democrats? And that is the question front and center, I think, in the 2024 election.
Well, Dinesh, I think it segues beautifully into what we saw just the last couple days. Kamala's press conference, John Kelly's interview with the New York Times and the Atlantic. This is their big October surprise, Dinesh, and you know this better than anybody. They're now saying their final pitch to voters is Donald Trump is Hitler 2.0. That apparently he told Kelly he admires parts of Hitler. He admired Hitler's generals. And so what the Democrats and Kamala are now arguing is that if Trump wins in November, he will install a Nazi-style, a Hitler-style fascist dictatorship. A Fourth Reich will be born in America. What say you?
Well, first of all, it's extremely strange that whatever Trump said to John Kelly was apparently nursed by John Kelly privately for 5 years and then unfurled 2 weeks before the election. This is inherently suspicious. Now, historically, Trump apparently, according to Kelly, expressed some admiration for Hitler's generals. Militarily, there's absolutely no doubt that, for example, if you look at the Nazi operation against France, France had a seemingly impregnable Maginot Line, and the Nazis figured a way to go around it and essentially took Paris within a remarkably short time. The early operations of Hitler militarily were brilliant. Now, was Trump referring to something like that? We have no idea. But whether he was or not, this has nothing to do with admiring Hitler, admiring Nazi ideology, admiring, what came subsequently with the Holocaust. So I think what's going on here, whether this was completely made up or a massive distortion of a casual comment made by Trump, you are right. They are trying to kind of pin the fascist or Hitler tail on the Republican elephant, whereas in reality, it belongs much more on the Democratic donkey.
Dinesh, let's just say for the sake of argument that Kamala prevails November 5th. We now will have a President Kamala Harris, a Vice President Tim Walz. What does America look like then?
I think we continue what can be called, what Obama called the remaking, but you and I think would call the unwinding of America. And something that we saw with Obama for 8 years escalated under Biden and Harris for 4. It's a free fall for the country. Now, I'm not one to quickly say that a rich and powerful country like America will collapse overnight, but at some point you reach a point of no return in which your economy, you have just accumulated so much debt. You're like the rich man who no longer is rich because you owe more than you can afford to pay. You are not admired or respected around the world. You've destroyed the institutions of your own culture. Your families are in disarray. So even the building blocks of restoration become difficult to assemble in the future. So I'm afraid that our American dream, or, what you could call American exceptionalism, the things that have made America unique in the world, they're already rapidly going away, and they may be, alas, irretrievable.
We are talking with Dinesh D'Souza, award-winning director, filmmaker, best-selling author. You all saw his movie Vindicating Trump. It was absolutely incredible. He now has the follow-up book. I've read it. I love it. I'm urging all of you to buy it. Same name, Vindicating Trump. You can go to Amazon. You can go to Barnes & Noble. Dinesh, we got about a minute left. Oh, what do you say to listeners? Why should they buy your book?
The book is a close-up look at Trump, and it doesn't flinch from the attacks on Trump, some of them even coming from Republicans. Hey, I don't like the guy, but I like his policies, or he did a good job, but he has a defective moral character, or he needs to shut his mouth. In other words, what the book does is it makes a full-on defense not just of Trump's policies, but also of Trump the man. The division in the country is not over Trump's policies, it's over Trump the man. And I argue that, look, Trump is in a way almost perfectly suited for the crisis in which the country finds itself. He may not be the best person for any time, but he is the best person, in fact, maybe the only person to put the country back on the right track at this time.
Oh, amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Dinesh, I know you can get it on Amazon. I know you can get it on Barnes & Noble. Any other place people can go to buy your book?
A good place to check out is vindicatingtrump.com. The movie is now in streaming and DVD, so there's a bunch of places to stream it. You can get DVDs as gifts, and the book is also available off the site. So vindicatingtrump.com is a pretty good one-stop shop for the book.
I'd love to put more money in your pocket, Dinesh. Vindicatingtrump.com. Go to vindicatingtrump.com. Dinesh, congratulations again on what I predict will be another bestseller. Outstanding job. Keep it up. Thank you, Dinesh. Your calls and reaction next. 821 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. So as you know, Kamala now, this is their final pitch, is saying that Trump is unstable, Trump is unhinged, Trump is dangerous. So, let me ask all of you, who do you think sounds more unhinged with less than 2 weeks to go before the election? Who is sounding to you more unhinged? A, Donald Trump. B, Kamala Harris. You know where I stand. I am a B all the way, baby. To me, it's a no-brainer. But I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, WRKO.com/Kuhner. You can also vote via X. I'm always active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER, at the Kuhner Report. Listen now to Mel Gibson, Mel of Hollywood fame. He's asked by reporters, who are you voting for? He says the choice couldn't be clearer or more obvious. Roll cut 21, Mike. All right, so we're having technical difficulties. He's voting for Trump. And when pressed why, and I thought this was one of the best lines I've heard in a long time, he said, well, because Harris has the IQ of a fence post. Yeah, can't really disagree there. 617-266-6868.
The president is being voted on in days. What's your thoughts?
Oh, man, that's a big question.
Well, Trump.
I don't think it's going to surprise anyone who I vote for.
Well, so, I mean, I'm going to guess.
You go ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to guess, Trump. Is that a bad guess?
I think it's a pretty good guess.
Well, what do you think the world will be like in a second term with President Trump's second term? A lot of people
I know what it'll be like if we let her in.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And that ain't good.
Yeah. Well,
miserable track record. Appalling track record. No policies to speak of.
Yeah. And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
The IQ of a fence post. Mel, I don't know. Are you going to copyright that or because I'd love to use that if you could give me permission. I think it's a great phrase. 617-266-6868. Tommy in the Philippines. Boy, you get around, Tommy. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Yeah, my next phone call will be in November from West Virginia. It'll be deer season then. Hey, I listened to you earlier when you were talking about Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC, and you had a caller yesterday, a male that just went off the deep end of like Donald Trump's Hitler, or I can't exactly remember what, but you tried to pin him down and he couldn't answer those questions. And I went to high school with a guy who was the head of the Associated Press for New England. And he sent me a message on Facebook that Donald Trump is a tyrannical bastard. So I wrote back to him politely, explain to me where he's been tyrannical. And he couldn't, and he refused to answer the question. He majored in journalism. But all I can think of is you didn't grow up in America in the 60s, but there used to be a song.
There's a lot of songs in the 60s that I think would sum up pretty much what's happening now. Tommy, you're completely right. You ask them to give you an answer, a reason, they can't give you one. 8:30 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you got to hear this. Trust me when I tell you this. So, as I've been talking about for much of the morning, this is now, I guess, their next October surprise. So the latest one, the first one was he's Hitler. Now there's this woman, Stacey Williams. I don't know where they found her. 31 years ago, she alleges that Trump groped her at Trump Tower, along with Jeffrey Epstein. He brought her in. That was his girlfriend at the time. And that Epstein was laughing as Trump was groping her, and Trump was laughing with Epstein. Anyway, the story is now clearly blowing up because it's a lie. But don't tell that to the media. The media now just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. They're desperate because now they can see that her poll numbers are dropping like a stone. Yet look at the way they're treating this woman with all of her garbage accusations that are clearly false, clearly made up, clearly timed just to try to win a few votes before the election by defaming Trump, lying about Trump, and smearing Trump. And this is an absolutely brilliant text from 781. You can text us 70470, 70470. Jeff, consider how the real world works. Imagine that you were this latest so-called victim, quote unquote, of Donald Trump's sexual assault. Wouldn't you tell somebody? Your family? Your doctor? Your best friend? Your lawyer? The police? One of the richest and most famous men in the world, quote unquote, assaults you, and you tell no one? except 31 years later when he's running for president. So, and by the way, that's completely true. She says, I never told a soul. Nobody. 781 continues. Well, neither did E. Jean Carroll, the woman who claimed Trump did a similar stunt in a New York department store dressing room. She only came forward when a mega wealthy Trump-hating billionaire put her up to it and paid for her lawfare assault on Trump. Bingo. You got it, Sandy. That's where he's going with. You nailed it. Yet contrast this to Anita Broderick, who told several of her family members and friends about Bill Clinton's raping her that very day when she came home with a busted and swollen lip and decided not to press charges because the Clinton machine could and would destroy her business if she came forward. Or contrast this, and that's who Sandy was talking about in my ear, or contrast this to Tara Reid, who told her family and friends immediately when then Senator Joe Biden groped her genitals, digitally raped her in a secluded Capitol space when she was his aide. Not one of these actual victims got a conference call with the media, like that woman Stacey Williams. Tara Reid tried to come forward, and she was silenced. She was canceled. In fact, she's so in fear of her life because the Democrats are threatening to kill her that she's hiding somewhere in Europe. I believe she's in Russia now. Now, the Daily Mail has busted this story, broken this wide open. Doug Emhoff's ex-girlfriend, she's still remaining anonymous. She says that the Democrats will go after her, destroy her and her husband. She's now married. So she's begging that she remain anonymous. But she's now gone on the record with her accusations against Dougie, Kamala Harris's husband, the so-called second gentleman of the United States. And here is exactly now what she has told the Daily Mail. She says that she was dating Doug Emhoff for a couple of months. That during that time, she said it was very intense. He put his best foot forward, that he wined and dined her, and that she actually thought he was a good, decent man. And then he started to press within several weeks that he wanted to marry her. He not only wanted to marry her, she says he constantly kept putting his arm around her waist, rubbing her stomach, saying he wanted to have children with her, which she thought was a bit strange. This is what she told the Daily Mail. She was like, we've only known each other, was it 3 weeks? And we're talking marriage and babies? Now, at that time, he had already left his first wife. He had 2 other children of his own. And if you remember, he knocked up the nanny. He got her pregnant. Well, according now to her, she says, I'm telling you, Doug Emhoff told me that not only did he cheat with the nanny, not only did he get her pregnant, but he just told me matter-of-factly, nonchalantly, like it was nothing, that apparently he yelled at her or did something to her in her apartment that had such an impact that it caused her to have a miscarriage. Doug Emhoff then admitted to his ex-girlfriend that he then paid her $80,000, the nanny, and had her sign a non-disclosure agreement. So you see, when Democrats sign non-disclosure agreements, it's not a crime. But when Donald Trump signs an NDA, it's election interference. It's a crime. It's a campaign finance violation. She says she began to have serious doubts about him. when he told her that story and the way he said it, she said it raised red flags everywhere. But she had already bought tickets and flights for the two of them to go to the south of France. And they were going to an event that was right next to the Cannes Film Festival. And she said the first day was like a quote-unquote fairy tale. He was polite. He was nice. Southern France is gorgeous. They had a wonderful meal at the hotel. Beautiful show. She had a few drinks. She goes, nobody was drunk. I had a few drinks, couple glasses of wine. The French are known for their wine. Dougie had a few drinks. She goes, but then it was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was dark. We were waiting for the valet to get our car. It was a long line. I, on my own, walked up to the valet, put my hand on his shoulder, gave him $100, and said, could you please get our car here quickly? She says, then my life changed. Out of the blue, Dougie runs up behind her. Now, she says, you have to understand, I'm in 4-inch heels. I'm in a beautiful full-length gown. It was a gala evening. I didn't expect any of this. He grabbed me by my right shoulder, straightened me out, and then hit me with an open hand slap so hard, he literally spun me 360 degrees. Her words, I was shocked. I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. I couldn't believe he had just done this to me. And all that kept going through my mind was, what the hell is wrong with you? What did I do? She goes, I then slapped him in the face with the right hand, and then I slapped him again with the left hand. To which I say, good for you. Good for you. She then said a taxi rolled up. The valet, seeing the situation, took her, pushed her into the taxi, like, just get away from this creep. She said somehow Dougie managed to claw his fingers on the top of the door and pushed the door open, forced himself into the car. She says at this point, my heart was racing. What is this guy going to do to me in the car? She starts yelling at him. They have a vicious fight in the back seat. And she says, what is wrong with you? Why did you hit me? And Doug's only response was, I thought you were flirting with the valet. Her words, not mine. His mask fell off. I saw the real Doug Emhoff. I saw the dark side of Doug Emhoff. He's an abuser. He likes to beat women. He likes to control and dominate women. I called a male friend of mine, a business associate, in New York. I felt I needed to have a man on the line. I didn't speak French. It was 3 a.m. It was dark. All of my other friends were somewhere having a great time. I didn't know what he was going to do to me next. She says that she refused to go to the same room with him that night. When she confronted him the next morning, he acted like nothing happened. She said, I will not accept you, forgive me, hitting me and beating me. His response, don't worry, honey. You hit one down the line and across the court. A tennis analogy. That she got 2 shots in. The 2 slaps on the face. She said, I left him on the spot. And what sickens me most is the media is trying to portray him as the perfect spouse. He's a fraud just like Kamala. 8:49. 9 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just to put an exclamation point now on that huge breaking news story coming out of the Daily Mail. So, you now have the ex-girlfriend of the second gentleman. This is Kamala Harris's husband. Now coming out on the record saying, yeah, this guy beat me. And that's why I dropped him like a hot potato. I wanted nothing to do with him. In fact, as she tells the Daily Mail, in a perverse way, I'm kind of happy it happened because I saw exactly what kind of a monster Doug Emhoff is. He is a serial woman abuser. And when she found out that Kamala married him, and apparently married him within a year after Dougie, slapped her silly, she said, I felt very sorry for her. Her words, not mine. She said she obviously didn't do her due diligence. This guy is not the perfect spouse that the media is trying to portray him. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The man is cold, callous, brutal, who thinks women are chattel, and who gets a kick out of abusing and beating women. In fact, she had a very bad feeling. This was even in France. She goes, before we went to the gala evening, southern France is known for their beautiful beaches. She goes, so I was in my bikini, we're out on the beach. And she goes, Doug Emhoff insisted, Dougie, that I guess on the phone or whatever, that he take pictures of her in her bikini. But then he sent her the photos with her head cut out of the picture. One after another after another. And she confronted him and she said, why are you doing this? This is not funny. And she said he was like a pubescent boy. He was laughing and giggling, so her without a head, he thought was very funny in a bikini. And she said, let me tell you what became very clear to me. This man objectifies women. This man thinks women are less than human. And he takes a perverse pleasure in degrading and hitting women. And this could be the first gentleman of the United States. This is this ideal marriage that the media is trying to sell the country. As she told the Daily Mail, that to me is maybe the most frightening thing of all. They are literally portraying and presenting him as the very opposite of who he really is. Now, last point. What happened to believe all women? What happened to that? Hashtag me too. The Democrats say this all the time. Women don't lie about these sort of things. You have to believe all women. Remember, it was Kamala Harris who led the charge against Brett Kavanaugh. And her argument was, women don't lie about these kinds of things. Unlike Christine Blasey Ford, who had zero witnesses, zero evidence against Brett Kavanaugh, in fact, was caught lying again and again and again. This woman, 2 witnesses she told immediately. Immediately. A third witness she told, this was in 2012. A third witness she told in 2018. Now, as everybody's pointing out, what motive would she have to tell 2 witnesses what happened in that taxi cab? What motive would she have to tell someone 6 years later in 2018 about what Doug Emhoff did to her at the Cannes Film Festival? None. They have the receipts that they were at the hotel. They have the receipts that they took the flight together there. Now, do I believe her? You better believe it, I believe her. And yet, notice, there's no press conference with her. Suddenly, no reporter, and she makes this point to the Daily Mail, not a single reporter, she said. Not one from MS Left BC, CNN, the BBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, New York Times, Washington Post, Boston Globe, Associated Press. She said, no one has called me. Because they're desperately trying to prop up not just Dougie, but this lie and fake image of Kamala Harris and the perfect marriage with the perfect spouse, the ultimate feminized male, the so-called metrosexual, Dougie Emhoff. 617-266-6868 is the number. But they're going on about this BS accusation of 31 years ago. No witnesses, no friends, never told anybody, ever. Come on. Come on. It's not going to work. Their October surprise is going to blow up. And if anybody calls this woman, it's going to be the final political nail in Kamala Harris's campaign. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Real quickly, Virginia, by the way, she's up by 0.3 of a point all of a sudden. Watch out. If they lose Virginia to the Republicans, it's over. Anyways, to get back to this woman, she did this also under the guise of some new quasi group called Survivors for Kamala. And I'll bet E. Jean Carroll must be part of that. I don't know that for sure. But I know what it doesn't include. It doesn't include any of the survivors of a bum who used to be called the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, who's out there campaigning for him. You know, the guy in the Oral Office. She accepts his endorsement. Means nothing. Also missing from the survivors of Kamala are at least 500 people who are being represented by lawyers currently in California against the San Francisco Catholic Archdiocese, which filed for bankruptcy last year in lieu of having to face these cases, which she hid and hid evidence, would not give the evidence to the lawyers of these people when she was the DA in San Francisco. No, they're not in that group either, are they? Okay? So what we really know about her, she'll take any help from anyone that gets her to do what she needs to get. She's rotten to the core. Also, and these are all Democrats I'm talking to, the victims of Clinton and such, right? Okay. San Francisco, those are all Democrats, okay, that were abused by pedophiles in the church out there, okay. Now, what we need to really fully understand here is there was also, while she was berating Kavanaugh, there were several men who worked directly for her in her campaign for the DA, Attorney General of California, okay, and later on as running for senator. These are her three of her closest aides, three males, who are sexually abusing people, women, while she was the Attorney General. This broke out when she started, after her big charade there against Kavanaugh. She was going to run for president, and people were saying, well, wait a minute. You had three, the Me Too and all that crap. Under your reign, these three people, three or four of them, they settled for around $1 million with several women, right? Her staff came out and said, well, she never knew about this. This is the Attorney General now. She never knew about this because we never told her. Oh, really? She who's on top of everything, she knew nothing about this. She's rotten to the core. She's as phony as the hair on her head. I saw her in a picture with Pelosi her hairline goes back about 4 inches. And that's okay. Women have makeup. I understand they got to do what they got to do. None of us, as I say, we do not look like we did when we were 30 years old. But she's phony as hell. She's rotten to the core.
No, you nailed it. No, look, Nick, really, look, I got to tell you, everything about her is fraudulent. Everything. She's a complete and utter fraud. And, I'm so happy you mentioned the Catholic Church. Because when she was district attorney in San Francisco, and this is widely available, and what I mean is the San Francisco Chronicle has stories on this. The local San Francisco media, this has been well documented. Okay, and I'm talking, these are far left media outlets, not some conservative news site somewhere. She helped the Catholic Church cover up sex abuse victim after sex abuse victim. She covered up rampant, massive pedophilia, molesting children, sex abuse in the Catholic Church in the Archdiocese of San Francisco. That's who Kamala Harris is. And she's the one now that's going on about believe all women? Oh, I'm the prosecutor. I put criminals in jail. No, you don't. And that's another thing. How many cases did she actually try? When she was running for attorney general, look, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but again, it just shows you what a fraud this woman is. She was campaigning, and she almost lost that race to a Republican. And she kept saying over, I've tried hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases. Her opponent came out and said, no, you didn't. But you're lying. And she's like, well, what do you mean? He goes, you didn't do 300 cases. You didn't even do 200 cases. You didn't even do 100 cases. We've been looking at the docket. What have you done? Maybe several dozen cases? Tops? And so she finally had to concede. Well, yeah. So this idea that I prosecuted, no, you didn't prosecute people. But we're talking about now the sexual abuse and exploitation of kids. And she swept it all under the rug. But she was lecturing Brett Kavanaugh? Now she's lecturing us about Trump? Are you kidding me? Now, this needs to be said. Because I don't want to credit Marianne. Marianne messaged me on Messenger. That's what I love about this audience. It's not just the best audience in the business. It's the most honest, courageous audience in the business. Because this audience has the guts to say what so many people are thinking, but they just don't want to say it. For whatever reason. This audience says it. So Marianne said, Jeff, look, maybe I'm being petty. Maybe I'm being a little nasty here. But she goes, I'm sorry, you play these word salads of her. And we're talking now the most basic question. CNN town hall. This is a layup, as they say. What are your weaknesses and how do you overcome them? Whatever. You can come up with a million reasons. I just care too damn much. No, I just care, and I gotta, I have to learn to pace myself, and I have to learn to spend time with my family, and there's a million ways you can answer a question in a BS manner. She can't answer the question. To the point that she sounds like a blathering idiot. Like, I'm sorry, a moron. It's like, lady, are you serious? Is this what's coming out of your mouth? I'm a nerd. I'll research something over and over and over and over. To the point that Anderson Cooper, you can see his face. He's like, this is your answer? 2 minutes of this dreck, of this nothing? So Marianne messages me and she makes a very good point. Jeff, honestly, we know she slept her way to the top. Willie Brown laid it all out. That's how she rose in California Democratic politics. She was sleeping and servicing, let's be blunt, because that's what it was, a married man who was 30 years older than her. And then he passed her off to other Democrat officials who she kept servicing. Okay? Let's just leave it at that. But she says, I got to ask the obvious question. How did this woman graduate college? How did she get through law school? How did she pass the bar? Now, I'm telling you, Sandy Shack is not a bomb thrower. She's just not. She's very measured, very lawyerly when she talks. We've been doing post-shows, pre-show production meetings for years. She's never called somebody an idiot. That's just not her style. Only even Joe Biden. She said, his dementia, he's not fully there, whatever. But she never even called him an idiot. It's been weeks and weeks now. You listen to her and she's like, Jeff, she's really stupid. She kept saying this. She said, Jeff, I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's nervous. Maybe she can't think on her feet. Maybe the pressure is too much for her. She goes, I'm sorry. The woman is an idiot. She's just really, stupid. Really stupid. And that's what everybody's starting to conclude. So you got to ask yourself, and Marianne does, did she sleep her way through college? Because Marianne said, look, we've all gone to college. I know. Look, I'm telling you, at McGill, when I was teaching at McGill, I'm telling you, there were two professors. It was an open secret. They were sleeping with the students. Two in particular. One, it was so outrageous and so egregious, I complained to the faculty, and they did nothing about it because this professor was tenured. You could hear him, forgive my French, banging the female students in his office with the door closed. He wasn't my neighbor, but you're walking through the halls. It's the main hall where the history department is. You could hear the moaning and you're stopping. They're having sex in there. In the school. In his freaking office. And I'm like, this is so I go, first of all, he should be fired. It's against the code at McGill. You can't have sex with any student, period. So it's a violation of McGill's code of conduct. Okay? I said, number one. Number two, my God, if you're going to do it, buddy, rent a hotel or whatever, a motel. I guess he was married. Take it to your house. Take it to an apartment. Take it to go to a car, for God's sake, in the woods. But you're going to do this in the office during office hours? Students are hearing it. Colleagues are hearing it. This is McGill University, man. Nothing. They cover it up for him. But my point being, I know for a fact, and I even know who the female student was. She would flirt with every professor and bag them, sleep with them, and guess what? Perfect GPA, baby. Perfect GPA. So I know college professors sleep with their students. And if you're willing to lay on your back, pardon the expression, you can get an A. Now, I'm not saying she did it. I don't have any evidence. I know what she did with Willie Brown. I know what she did with other California Democrat politicians. That's all on the record. But I've got to ask the question. You know, the expression, once a whore, always a whore. Well, she whored her way up the pole of politics. Did she whore her way through college and law school? Because I look at her and I'm like, seriously, how did you get a college degree? You passed I know she failed the bar once. And technically passed it the second time. Honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm like, no, this woman did not pass law school. No, I don't believe it. I'm serious. I don't believe it. And I think this is what people find most offensive. I mean, I know at a company, when I see someone who's sleeping their way to the top, it really is like putting a knife in your stomach and turning it. Because it's so unfair and so unjust and so corrupt, so immoral. But I'm not talking about an executive or middle management position. We're talking now about President of the United States of America. Has she essentially slept her way to the Oval Office? And you don't think the world knows at least about what she did in her early career as she slept her way to the top? You think the Chinese don't know? You don't think the Russians know? You don't think the Europeans know? You don't think the Iranians know? You don't think the people in the Middle East know? My point is, no one's going to respect this woman. Who would? You should see the nicknames in the international press. If I said they're publishing those nicknames. Look them up. Okay? Knee pads. I'm not going to say anything more. Okay? I'm not going to say anything more. Now, if they're printing this in some of the biggest, most influential newspapers in the world about her now, what do you think they're going to call her when she's president? I mean, like come on. I'm sorry, as a nation, how low do we want to go? We have to have a certain amount of self-respect. And to me, what is incredible about all of this, look, I don't care. You can say whatever you want about the old boys network, okay? You know, the smoke-filled back rooms and the bosses. Hey, they would never, ever put someone like her on the ticket. I mean, they would look at her resume and say, not her, next. You know? I mean, I know they didn't do the primaries and they kept it out of the hands of the voters. And I get it. But say what you want about them. They'd be like, no, not her. No, hey, come on, guys. Whoa, are you serious? So, when they overthrew Biden, this is who you settled on? You couldn't find me one person better than her? No? Amy Klobuchar? No? Gavin Newsom? No? Roy Cooper? No? Gretchen Whitmer? No? Michelle Obama? No? I mean, I could go on and on and on. Hillary Clinton for all her... No? You have to find her? This is who you picked. That's why she's going down. And that's what she can't fake. And that's why she's taking days off the campaign trail and she's curled up in a ball in some office in Washington, D.C. Everything is crashing down around her. And Trump is now at the gates of victory.
I've never seen anybody so inept at speaking. I mean, I thought her performance was horrible. I've never seen anything like it for a high-level politician. I can't even believe it. But she did call me a fascist, and everyone knows that's not true. They call me everything until, something sticks.
So that was Donald Trump. He was asked yesterday to react to Kamala Harris's town hall on CNN, which was an absolute disaster. Look, it's all coming apart. Look, I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched. I never do that. But as things stand right now, she is running the worst campaign in American history. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, here on the great WRKO. Lines are blazing. Alan in the great state of South Carolina. Thanks for holding, Alan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Alan.
Hey, I just got to say, first of all, hysterical caller of the week. Just had to give it to him.
Thank you, Alan.
And regarding the poll question, I thought it was hysterical that you posed this one, and I'm terrible at impressions, but to do my best, Kamala Harris, let me be clear. She's never been totally hinged, so obviously she's the one who's the most unhinged. And then one final thing, I sent you this in Messenger about voting and so forth, and I just got to tell you, South Carolina has been going out in massive numbers. For the first 3 days of early voting, almost 400,000 are 126,000 on day one on Monday, 127,000, almost 128,000 on Tuesday, 129,000 on Wednesday. I mean, it's looking good down here in South Carolina.
Excellent. Alan, I'm just curious. What do you make of the fact that Kamala took 2 full days and just didn't campaign. Went back to Washington, D.C., and nobody it just hid. Really, just hid. We don't know what happened. Went behind closed doors. There weren't fundraisers or, I don't know, meetings with the campaign staff. She just took 2 days off. There's no other way to put it. With the last 2 weeks of the campaign, she takes 2 days off. Is it because they know they're going to steal this? And so she's saying, why am I breaking my back? Or do you think now she's starting to psychologically and emotionally implode?
I'm definitely worried about the former of those two options, but, given her history, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little mini bender,
Alan, thank you very, very much for that call. To be brutally honest with all of you, that's the rumor. I mean, that's what people are saying in D.C. Let me just, drinky, drinky, drinky. Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I've been saying for the last maybe month and a half or so, driving my son crazy because he's on the other side of the aisle. She's ready to have a breakdown, and I don't say that in a funny way because I had a loved one that experienced multiple breakdowns. Now they had a mental illness, but I know this whole bunny trail very well. There's a look, her mannerisms. I'm telling you, she's ready to break, and it makes sense. And I do not wish that for her. I don't hate this woman. I don't hate this woman like they hate Trump. I don't wish anybody to have any kind of a breakdown, but she's ready to have a breakdown. They are manipulating her, Jeff, and we're watching this, just like we watched what they did to Joe. They used him and abused him, and that's exactly what they're doing to her. She is a tool for their purposes. She thinks she's going to capitalize on it, but she is not up to the task. She is out of her depth, out of her league. As a vice president, she is not someone for this position. I've been saying for years, obviously don't particularly care for this woman politically. She was better as a senator, and the reason she was better as a senator is because she was Kamala. She was herself. She had nobody handling her. She had no one saying, go to the left, go to the right, go up, go down, go this, do that, say this, say that, don't say that, don't say that. She doesn't know who she is anymore. So she's literally like crumbling and breaking down inside. Okay? And she's going to have, if things go Trump's way, which of course in Kuhner country we want that to be true, she's going to be tossed aside like they tossed Joe Obama aside. She's going to be, well, who's Kamala? She's going to be a nothing, because this is how these people roll. I now call them the assassination party, because that's what they are. They took a great man, Trump, and they can't do anything. He is Teflon Don. They did the character assassination for years, and then they couldn't pull that off, and then bullets start flying. This is their modus operandi. Use people and abuse people, and they don't give two bleeps. What it cost you, okay? So this is where she finds herself. She is in a conundrum. She is in an awful position. She herself, I guarantee you, knows, I am not up for this job. She can't do this, Jeff. She cannot do this, and she's falling apart. And I don't wish that on anybody, because that's a very bad place to be.
Brenda, I got to tell you, you're one of our best callers. I mean, you know that. But this may be your best call ever. I think you are so spot on every single point. It's not even funny. I know, as I like to say, I don't agree with you 100%. I agree with you 1,000%. She was much better in the Senate. Not that I like her politics or anything, but she's a far left San Francisco liberal. Okay. She was more to the left than Bernie Sanders. That's who and what she is. For good or for ill. That's what she is. So she was more comfortable in her skin. Now, since they made her vice president and now this, they've turned her into an absolute pretzel. She's the most artificial, inauthentic candidate ever. And it's eating her up. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. If you want to be part of the show, couple lines are open. I promise we're going to go right to your calls. But first, joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, the CEO and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Are you ready to retire? According to the Live Careers Retirement Sentiments Report, around 80% of respondents considered delaying their retirement owing to financial concerns. Many express fears of becoming a financial burden on others, not having enough for emergencies, making poor investment decisions, or the rising cost of long-term care. The report also highlighted that only 42% believe they're on track to save what they might need in retirement. Regardless of where you are in your retirement planning journey, Kelly Financial can help you develop a holistic plan that allows you to retire when the time is right for you. Don't delay. For a complimentary consultation with a Kelly advisor, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for the radio rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. Kuhner Country, Kelly Financial has been one of our biggest supporters for many, many years now. You want to go retire, please give them a call, 888-800-1881. They'll take great care of you, I promise. 888-800-1881. It's a free consultation, no pressure. Or you can email Kelly yourself. Kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's Kelly@kellyfinancial.org. All right. Very quickly, all of you need to hear this. Look, the dam is starting to break. Okay, slowly but surely. So, this is from 781. You can text us 70470, and it's a breaking news story. Jeff, here is now what is breaking everywhere. Jeff Bezos has blocked the Washington Post, he owns the Post, from endorsing Kamala Harris because he knows that Trump is going to win and doesn't want to be on Trump's bad side. When you are the Democrat nominee, Jeff, and you can't get the endorsement of the Washington Post, you're done. She's in big trouble. I'm telling you, she's in big trouble. Okay. This came from, this is Stephen Miller now, one of Trump's top immigration advisors. He's going to play a key role in a second Trump administration. And he says, Jeff, this is what he said. Someone said, Jeff, this is 617. Jeff, look at what Miller just said. How can Kamala have been a prosecutor, quote unquote, for so long, and no one can find a single transcript of her prosecuting a case? Odd. 917. Jeff, look it up. She really said this. Quote. Now you got to listen to this, all of you. Quote. The problem of solving a problem is not a problem. But when a problem solves a problem without any problem, then the problem is not at all a problem. But you can't make this up. You can't make this up. This is who you put up as your nominee. This is why. You got to hear this now. This is all they have left. All they have now is fear-mongering, panic porn, and Adolf Hitler. And you're going to hear Hitler now for the next 11 days. Listen now to Hillary Clinton. If you remember, if you know your history at all, in 1939 in Madison Square Garden, the American Bund, the biggest supporters of Nazism in the United States, American Nazis, held a massive rally at Madison Square Garden in 1939. Okay, it was really the high tide of domestic support for Nazis and Hitler in the United States. And they packed Madison Square Garden. The idiots didn't realize, of course, law enforcement were on them. They took down the names of their license plates, their cars. They knew all of them, so they were able to surveil and watch them. But, let that go. Listen now. As you know, Trump is going to hold a huge rally in Madison Square Garden. Who are they going to compare this to? Here's Hillary Clinton. Roll cut 13, Mike.
And one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
There you go. The Nazis did Madison Square Garden in 1939. Trump's doing Madison Square Garden in 2024. You see the connection? You see it? Okay? This is the kind of stupidity, the kind of idiocy. The kind of outrageous fear-mongering, frankly pathetic, desperate fear-mongering that you're hearing now, you're going to be hearing for the next 10 days. It no work. So now they're upping it. If I told you this, you wouldn't believe me. So I want Tim Walz, I want you to hear him in his own words. This is Kamala's vice presidential nominee. North Carolina, key swing state. He goes to Duke University talking to 18, 19-year-old college students. And you know how impressionable college students are. And listen to what he tells them. It's one of the most disgusting, sickening, outrageous, to me, disqualifying things I have ever heard a politician say. He should be ashamed of himself. Don't take my word for it. Here is Tim Walz at Duke to a room full of students. Roll cut 16, Mike.
Look, I don't say this lightly because I didn't, in my 60 damn years, I didn't think I'd ever see a candidate for president praising Adolf Hitler's generals or talking about using the military against their enemies. And I mean, it's pretty stunning. And I said, look, I recognize I'm on the top of his list, but don't kid yourself. You're somewhere on that list too if you disagree with these people. That's who they are.
You're on a list? All of you students now at Duke, you're on a list? If Trump wins, he's going to round all of you up and put you in internment camps? I'm on the top of that list, but you're on the list as well. Now, I'm sorry, you got to go scorched earth on this loser, on Tiananmen Tim. Where's the list? Where's your evidence that you are going to be rounded up and put in an internment camp? Where's the list? Where did you get the evidence? Where's your evidence that there's a list? And where's the evidence that these students or any other student or any other American is on some supposed enemy's list that they're planning to round up and put millions of Americans into internment camps? You lying piece of you-know-what. You POS. This is some of the most disgusting demagoguery. Open fear-mongering, panic porn. Again, This is the equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded theater. This is defamation. Now, where is the media? Nowhere. Nowhere. Every media outlet should be getting one. Hold on. Whoa, you got a list? Where's the list? You don't have a list? Show us. No, hey, show us the paper. Show us the evidence. Where's the list? Now, nothing's going to happen to that fat slob. When Trump kicks their ass on November 5th, nothing's going to happen to Tim Walz. I'll bet you my house. And certainly nothing is going to happen to any of those students in that room. But he's inciting them now. And I believe that's their plan B. They know they're going to lose. So now they're psychologically, mentally, emotionally, politically, they're now setting up their own January 6th to block Trump when he wins. 9:47 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, and down the stretch we come. Dom in Salem. Thanks for holding, Dom, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Dom.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I sure can. I think you're wrong about the polls. I think a lot of these polls are paid for by Donald Trump. He's spending a lot of money having these polls produced. And I think he's keeping it close because I think it's farther off than you think. I think she's going to win, and I think she's going to win big.
Now, what's your evidence for that?
You.
Well, what's your evidence for that? You can say anything.
The evidence is the polls are very close. And you're saying that he's running away with it. I mean, look at the midterms. What happened there? What happened to your big tsunami? Nothing. It faded out into nothing. So I'm saying she's going to win. Your polls are wrong. And, I don't need evidence.
What evidence? No, hold on, Dom. What evidence? Well, we're going to find out. I mean, Dom, someone's going to, we're going to see what happens on November 5th, right? So we'll see. But you said Donald Trump is paying for these polls. Where's the evidence that he's paying for these polls? What evidence do you have?
These polls are friendly polls that he has produced. He pays for these polls.
Well, name me one. Which poll? Which is a friendly poll that he produced?
Rasmussen.
Okay, well, he did. Where's the money that he sent to Rasmussen? Where's your evidence he paid Rasmussen?
Where's your evidence that he didn't?
Well, that's a ridiculous.
You want to play that game.
Well, no, it's not
that's
playing
what
a game.
Do all the time.
No, come on, stop now. Come on, let's not get ridiculous, okay? So when you make an accusation against someone, you have to have evidence. You have no evidence. Wall Street Journal, front page, yesterday's paper. Donald Trump now has a 2-point lead nationally. That's Wall Street Journal, NBC News. 2-point lead nationally. But if you look at the battleground states, he's up 5, he's up 7, or he's up 8. Now what? He bought the Wall Street Journal poll? He's buying NBC News? New York Times Siena poll. Last one now. They said it's literally a dead heat nationally. But in the battleground states, Trump is ahead. What, he bought the New York Times? So, Dom, look, I'm sorry. She's a god-awful candidate. You picked the worst possible candidate. Now, you can put lipstick on a pig all you want. It's still a pig. And you call this show, which is fine, and you say to me, Donald Trump is buying polls. And I ask you to show me any shred of evidence. And you can't.
Oh, I didn't know it was my turn to talk. Yeah, hello.
Well, go ahead.
I try to talk while you're talking. Well, if you cut me off while you're talking, and I'm
not cutting you off. I'm giving you all the time in the world. Go ahead. Where's your evidence?
A million times while you're on the phone, and you don't even hear me. You know?
Dom, look, Dom, do you have something to say or do you not have something to say? You made a wild accusation. I'm asking you to show me the evidence. Where's the evidence?
Calling Kamala her a pig and all these disparaging things. Calling her stupid. Don't you have any other terms besides stupid and pig? Is that what you like to do with your time?
Now you're not. Now you're evading my question. You see? No. But now you're evading my question. You're the one that called into the show and said she's going to win in a landslide. I said, where's your evidence? You said, well, Donald Trump bought up all the polls. I said, well, name me one poll that he bought. You can't name me one. Then I say, okay, show me the evidence. You can't show me the evidence. And by the way, putting lipstick on a pig and calling, I'm not calling her a pig. It's an expression, meaning it's something that's awful. And even if you try to dress up something that's awful, it's still awful. I mean, I don't know if you have the IQ to understand that, but let's go back to your original accusation. You said he's buying polls. Which polls has he bought? Where's your evidence?
Any of these chump polls that you're referring to are the ones that he's paid for. Okay.
Okay. So the Wall Street Journal, New York
polls. You said.
Hold on. Whoa. Relax. I'm going to give you all the time in the world. Is the Wall Street Journal NBC news poll that came out yesterday, is that a chump poll?
The national mainstream media is in the tank for Trump, and if you can't see that.
Oh yeah, the national media is in the tank for Trump. Are you serious? Okay,
look at the way CNN. Look at Dana Bash. Look at Dana Bash the other night. Trump can go out there and be the most ridiculous, craziest stuff going on, and they're like, "Oh, he's wonderful." They have to explain the guy. Kamala,
CNN is pro-Trump.
McDonald's.
CNN is pro-Trump. Is that what you're trying to tell me now? Are you serious? Are you on drugs, man?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Dom.
But CNN is.
Dom, I get it. At 9:45, they let the inmates out for 15 minutes, and you get on the phone and you can make your call. I get it now.
On the phone here, I've been driving around. I've been working.
Dom, listen to me. Listen to me. Dom, you're seriously wrong in the head. I'm telling you your face. CNN is one of the most rabid anti-Trump networks in the world. Everybody knows that. When CNN is calling out your candidate, it's because she sucks. When the Washington Post will not endorse her, she sucks. When the Los Angeles Times, which has endorsed every Democratic candidate going back 60 years, doesn't endorse Kamala, it's because your candidate sucks. Now, you can put lipstick on a pig all you want, Dom. It's still a pig. But thank you for the call. Sharon in Quincy, thanks for holding. Now, you see, now you know they're really falling apart. When they start attacking CNN and start saying now that the mainstream media is in the tank for Trump because they're all starting to say Kamala's blowing the election, it's over. It's over, my friends. Sharon in Quincy. How much time left, Mike? All right, 1 minute. Go, Sharon.
It's just funny because I don't know if you remember as a kid, they had that saying, "I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say to me, bounce off me and sticks you." That's what we're doing because they're calling us fascists, but they're the fascist ones. So they do it with every term. Whatever they're calling us or whatever they say we're doing, they're doing. So they're just so ridiculous. And I just have to say, anyone like Howard Stern, all these people that are coming up.
Well, look, Howard Stern didn't help her. CNN didn't help her. The View didn't help her. MSNBC, ABC News, CBS, they all tried to carry her over the finish line. And they're obviously failing. My friends, Trump is going to win. Bye-bye.